Welcome back. You're watching Citizen Live at 1. The Bomet governor, Isaac Ruto, has called for the immediate arrest of all culprits who attacked the Nandi chief of staff and his team who are spearheading the Pesa Mashinani drive. Ruto accused those disrupting such rallies as intolerant and vowed to push on with referendum despite the challenges. Alex Kubasu has those details.
The heightened political intolerance experienced in various parts of the country in the heated referendum campaigns in Kapsabet, Nandi County, and even in Makueni over political differences has now gotten the attention of the Council of Governors Chairman Isaac Ruto.
And we are telling those fellows who are intolerant to stop their nonsense. Wacha kupiga watu. Mtu ananipa watu kuja kupiga officers in the office. Huko Nandi. Mtu anashukishwa kwa gari na kuchapa. How primitive can people go?
I want to make an appeal to the people of Kenya that dialogue is the best way to go. Even the Bible says, come let us reason together.
Ruto insisting that all leaders should be allowed to take their campaigns to any part of the country.
Why should you pay for violence? Come and say what you want to say and I will. Mwingine, and if you don't find a crowd, we sema peke yako. We sema tu, ita watu wa press, they will communicate. Kuja tuka hapa na wewe na panu to velos. But make sure so you also come when they come. Don't ask them to transport them.
The Council of Governors Chair, who is spearheading the Pesa Mashinani campaign, insists that the push for the review of key clauses in the Kenyan Constitution is unstoppable.
So that is why kwa hii mambo yote we are saying lazima pesa iongezwe ile inakuja mashinani.
Ruto, who has faced numerous criticism from his party for going against its stand by supporting calls for referendum, has remained adamant, dismissing the current sitting officials at the party's top brass as strangers and vowed to resist any summons to appear before the disciplinary committee. Alex Kubasu, Citizen Live at 1.
Royal Media Services has partnered with the Miss Tourism Kenya franchise to air this year's county and national finals of the annual beauty pageant. The show will air on Citizen TV, which is the country's leading station and has the highest number of local programs and the widest reach across East Africa.
Miss Tourism Kenya is the first beauty pageant to be organized under the devolved system of governance. The beauty pageant aims to promote tourism and cultural diversity in the counties through a platform of positive competition with the county first ladies as the ambassadors.
We will promote and push the hits, both on radio and television, to give it the recognition and the top of mind awareness, so that we're all aware that there's an event like this one and we participate.
It means a lot for us to come together and make our country the best destination, tourism destination. And we did that because having 41 counties last year, I think that one was more than a success.
The franchise runs under a 6-pillar concept in promotion of development in the tourism sector, which include peace, environment, hospitality, investment opportunities, cultural diversity, and tourism attractions. The county finals have already started across the country, while the national finals will take place in December this year. Kibemboru, Live at 1.
A 13-year-old boy has become the latest victim of a border dispute between the Pokot and Turkana communities who've been fighting over grazing land in more recent months. The killers did not steal anything.
A young life cut short by the barrel of a gun. 13-year-old Dapangole Kitum was busy taking care of his father's livestock when the tragedy struck. 2 suspected raiders allegedly shot him at point blank, killing him instantly. The killers took nothing with them, leaving the community a lifeless body to bury. According to Pokot residents, this is just one of the many killings that have taken place in the area over border disputes and grazing land.
Kuwa mtoto ambaye ni innocent, ambaye alikuwa akifanya kazi yake, hajaenda mahali kuenda kuiba ama kufanya nini, ni mbaya sana. Kwa hivyo tunasikia uchungu sana.
Residents and the area MC Ariongo Lapona have called on the government to beef up security in the area to curb the cases of raids that have been on the rise in recent times.
Serikali waona njia ile watasaidia ili usalama itokee mambo ya Pokot na Turkana. Na sisi kama viongozi kutoka Pokot tumekuwa tayari kuhimiza mambo ya amani.
Martin Munene, Citizen Live at 1.
Turning now to news making headlines on the international front, British Prime Minister David Cameron has backed calls to include as many nations as possible in the fight against Islamic State militants in Iraq. While addressing the United Nations General Assembly on Wednesday, Cameron said that Britain would join states that are carrying out airstrikes against the militants. Cameron was echoing U.S. President Barack Obama's words. Earlier, the British Prime Minister said nations needed to address the ideology behind Islamic State and put in place laws to ban anyone inciting religious or sectarian violence. Cameron spoke after U.S. jets pounded Islamic State positions in Syria for a second day. But the strikes did not halt the fighters' advance in a Kurdish area where fleeing refugees told of villages burnt and captives beheaded. Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates are also taking part in the strikes.
Our enemy's enemy is not our friend, it is another enemy. Along with our European partners, we've already been supplying equipment directly to Kurdish forces. Iran should also be given the chance to show it can be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Earlier today, I met with President Rouhani. We have severe disagreements. Iran's support for terrorist organizations, its nuclear program, its treatment of its people, all these need to change. But Iran's leaders could help in defeating the threat from ISIL. They could help secure a more stable, inclusive Iraq and a more stable and inclusive Syria.
Turning now to an amazing story of a 22-year-old Liberian woman who became a one-woman Ebola hospital. Fatu Kekula's father, mother, sister and cousin all came down with the disease, but when they couldn't get care at a hospital, Fatu had to take action to save her family's lives.
2 months ago, Fatu Kekula's father got Ebola.
He started to put on the symptoms, the vomiting, the stooling, the fever.
3 hospitals turned Fatu's father away. Fatu had little choice. She took her dad home to treat him herself. Within days, 3 more people in the house got sick, and Fatu, a 22-year-old nursing student, had to become a one-woman Ebola hospital.
I was treating them all by myself, no one around, all by myself, all alone.
Isolating her sick loved ones in separate rooms, her mother, her father, her cousin Alfred, and in there, her sister Vivian. So you were running all around the house, taking care of them.
Yes.
They must have been so sick.
Yes, they were very sick.
Could they eat? Incredibly, Fatu didn't get sick. How she managed that will astound you.
I developed my own protective care. I bought black plastic bag, plastic jacket, glove, rain boot, long trousers, hair cover, mask to my nose, everything.
So this is it? You're
Yes.
done?
Yes.
This is how you took care of 4 people with Ebola?
Yes.
This is what happens when hospitals turn people away. You became inventive.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Fatu's cousin Alfred didn't pull through. But Fatu saved her father, her sister, and her mother from Ebola.
I'm very much proud of Fatu Kekula for the marvelous work that she did through the power of Almighty God.
Do you owe your life to her?
More than my life, because I can say, even though God saved me, but she saved my life also.
UNICEF heard about Fatu and was inspired by her. Now they're teaching her trash bag method to other people.
I'm feeling proud of myself.
You're quite a nurse.
Sure.
And you're not even officially a nurse yet.
No.
Elizabeth Cohen, CNN, Kakata, Liberia.
What a brave woman. Now, U.S. President Barack Obama, in a speech at the United Nations General Assembly yesterday, made the case for a more forceful, coordinated global response against Islamic State militants in the Middle East. The U.S. president called for a concerted effort to deal with the rising threat of terrorism across the world.
President Obama arrived at the United Nations not to make peace, but to expand his new war on terrorism. In a rare appearance, chairing a session of the UN Security Council, the president called on other nations to stop the flow of Western foreign fighters into the ranks of ISIS and other terror groups.
They may try to return to their home countries to carry out deadly attacks.
And he told new Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi to brace himself for a long battle.
This is not something that is going to be easy, and it is not going to happen overnight.
No God condones this terror.
Hours earlier, in a tough-talking speech to the UN General Assembly, the president urged the world to join forces to destroy ISIS, as he warned the terror group's soldiers to clear off the battlefield.
The only language understood by killers like this is the language of force. So the United States of America will work with a broad coalition to dismantle this network of death.
But Mr. Obama also took aim at the root causes of violent extremism, with a candid message to Muslims everywhere.
It is time for the world, especially Muslim communities, to explicitly, forcefully, and consistently reject the ideology of organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIL. No external power can bring about a transformation of hearts and minds.
Aides say the president added a mention of the riots in Ferguson, Missouri, to acknowledge the U.S. isn't perfect.
So yes, we have our own racial and ethnic tensions.
Still, the president didn't win over any adversaries. Moments after he slammed Russia for its actions in Ukraine, Moscow's delegation was caught on camera laughing. And Syria's ambassador to the UN accused the U.S. of siding with Arab partners that support terrorism.
You cannot be a terrorist while fighting terrorists. This is why I'm saying USA needs reliable partners such as Syria, Iraq, and the other secular governments in the area.
Some 200,000 Syrians have crossed into Turkey, escaping an ISIS advance that started last Friday. Those who make it across the border are tired and desperate, short on food, short on water, and without shelter for days. While ISIS did not take their lives, they've been forced to start their lives afresh because they've lost everything else.
People who have lost almost everything are lashed by the wind and dust. It is a brutal end to a journey that has taken them from their homes, possibly forever.
For people who have suffered so much, this land is unforgiving. When the dust and the wind blows, it is impossible to breathe. Take your glasses off, it is very difficult to see. And this is what these people have been experiencing for more than a week in some cases, but these are the lucky ones who now have safety and security from ISIS.
When the dust storm lifts, it reveals the exhausted, scared faces of some of the latest Syrians trying to escape violence by fleeing to Turkey. When they're allowed to cross the border, they're searched, fed, given water. Children are immunized. This tent is filled with the noise of children's fear and pain. But they're here because of their parents' fear of ISIS. 10-year-old Ibrahim explains simply, ISIS is now in our village. They attacked us, and we came here, he says. Tanks, heavy machine guns and mortars, this woman says. They destroyed everything. We have only our children now. As ISIS fighters advance through ethnic Kurdish communities in northern Syria, their reputation for brutality triggered an exodus. People fled, carrying what they could, tramping through the baking landscape to wait their turn at the border. In just a few days, about 140,000 desperate, hungry refugees entered Turkey. This in a country that is already sheltering around 1.5 million Syrians from their country's civil war. The UN High Commission for Refugees says the burden is not being shared.
We are doing as much as we can, but obviously it's not enough. We are not getting enough support from the international community.
These people say international efforts to destroy ISIS with airstrikes have not halted the militants' advance so far. These are now people without hope. 55-year-old Habash scoffs at the suggestion it could be otherwise. He says you only have to look to see they have no future. Phil Black, CNN, on the Turkey-Syria border.
To business news now, Deputy President William Ruto has warned that the dairy sector in Africa could remain underdeveloped if barriers to free trade among African countries are not removed. Ruto, however, says that the fortunes of the continent's dairy industry can be vastly improved if governments empower farmers and formulate and implement policies aimed at boosting milk production.
500 policy and decision makers from over 50 countries from within and outside Africa gathered at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi to discuss issues about dairy farming under the theme, Discovering African Dairy, Refreshing Mindsets. While addressing the delegates, Deputy President William Ruto challenged those in attendance to improve access to markets for betterment of dairy farming.
You, the private sector, and farmers, and the processors, and the traders, must put pressure on policymakers for us to bring down the barriers in our borders and create a regional market that would enable you to trade across borders.
The Deputy President further noted that with production in the region being well below demand for dairy products, the continent continues to depend on dairy imports to close the dairy products deficit. This situation, he said, ought to be reversed.
It is therefore important as you meet as countries around our region, COMESA and beyond, for us to read from the same script in terms of the policy direction that will inform better management, more investment in the dairy sector.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Felix Kosgei expressed satisfaction that dairy farming is currently doing well in the rural areas, thus generating several job opportunities.
The introduction of measures to revitalize the Kenyan agricultural sector in 2003, the dairy industry has consistently performed extremely well. Its contribution to the national economy has steadily grown from 2.8% in 2002 to the current 4%.
Deputy President Ruto says the Kenyan government will partner with private sector players to improve productivity in the country's dairy sector.
We are coming here to give them a competition. So that's...
Staying with matters agribusiness, let's now turn to our weekly segment, Smart Farm. This week, we take a look at the business of rearing commercial-layer chicken. And as Dennis Otieno found out, running a successful commercial poultry farming enterprise depends on the scale of one's poultry business as well as finding a direct route to the market.
It is 9 a.m. at Kipkorgot location in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, as Daisy Kipruto tends to her chicken farm, a business that has been her source of livelihood since late 2012.
Nipenda kuku haina gharama, si kama ng'ombe na si kama shamba. Na tunaishi karibu na town na najua mahoteli nyingi.
With some support from her husband, Daisy raised 300,000 shillings as capital to buy her poultry business. She began with 300 birds, mostly comprising of broiler chicken, before diversifying into rearing of layers, after spotting an opportunity within her locality.
Na friends wangu wanafanya kazi hoteli na tena hizo mahoteli walikuwa natoa kuku nini mayai reserve na nimbali. Nikaona means of transport kwangu ni cheap. Na safuka kuku na shamba ni kubwa.
Daisy earns an average of 6,000 shillings every day from a brood of layers.
Currently, niko na kuku 630, sana sana mayai 600 eggs, which is 20 trays. Per tray nauza kwa hoteli in 300 Yeah. Per day napata 3,000 profit per day, which is 90,000 per month after kutoa ya labor, and in case isikikonjeka naisapata roughly 60,000 per month.
The business' main cost is that of buying poultry feeds, which cost her about 4,400 shillings daily. Daisy also has to be ready to meet the cost of treating poultry disease outbreaks, which are a major risk to a commercial poultry farmer.
Kwanza ni feeds, because tunatumia company ya unga. Sometimes unga wanapandisha chakula, then ukicalculate huwezi pata kitu profit, but ni lazima ufuge kuku. Yeah. Ingine ni sometimes kama mwezi wa 8 kai inanyesha, diseases ni nyingi.
So which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, for Daisy, this fabled dilemma doesn't really matter, as she earns a decent income from selling the eggs and meat from her poultry. Dennis Otieno, Smart Farm.
Thank you for that, Dennis. Now, here's a question to all the ladies watching. What would you pay to have a handbag that's studded with diamond and gold? Well, one such handbag was recently sold at an auction in the United States of America for, hold your breath for this, 16.5 million Kenyan shillings. That's right. The bag, which was made out of Nile crocodile skin, is adorned with white gold and studded with 8.2 carats of diamonds. This particular handbag is better known as a Birkin bag, named after actress and singer Jane Birkin. Apparently, a similar bag was sold in 2011 for a much higher price of 18.1 million shillings, which was a record price at the time.
$1,100. Yes, of course you do. 200 and the interest at 2,200. They're wanting.
Okay, well, let's now take a look at how the Kenya shilling is performing at the foreign currency market. The local currency has weakened slightly to the US dollar, weighed down by continued demand for dollars by players in the energy and telecom sectors. According to the Central Bank of Kenya, commercial banks are now buying $1 in exchange of 89 shillings and selling it at 89 shillings and 19 cents. Against the euro, the Kenya shilling is trading at 113 shillings and 63 cents buying, 113 shillings and 90 cents selling. One sterling pound is now equivalent to 145 shillings and 33 cents buying, 145 shillings and 65 cents selling. The Kenyan currency remains little changed to its regional counterparts. The Kenya shilling is exchanging at 18 shillings and 72 cents buying, 18 shillings and 87 cents selling versus the Tanzanian shilling, while trading at 29 shillings and 46 cents buying, 29 shillings and 63 cents selling to the Ugandan unit. And of course, I'm now joined by Bernard Dong in the studio. I wouldn't mind